So after making my last video, I was kind of thinking about coming to purpose. Of course, that is not to say that I am on my purpose, or that I can tell anybody the blueprint for finding their purpose. But I think what I'm beginning to realize, or what is coming to seem to me like like it is the way towards purpose, is this. When someone comes from a more unfortunate background, at least like financially, I think a person can become frustrated because of the lack of opportunity and the lack of satisfaction. It's kind of like I never have enough, so I get frustrated. And all I want is to get a piece of the pie. But I don't see I don't have any resources around me, or at least I don't understand how to use the resources around me if they are there. So I don't know what to do. All I know is to be frustrated and to potentially go down a lane that's not the best lane. It might actually get me in more trouble. And so the person runs the risk of slipping into a sort of depression, or adopt some poor outlook on life, and maybe in hopes to cope with the misfortune or the lack of vision or the lack of opportunity, they adopt poor lifestyle choices, which only further take them down the rabbit hole. And then I think also, if you come from a more financially secure background, you're not exactly exempt from experiencing the same emotional response. Because, like in my last video, I was thinking about how after you experience something, I think you're forced, maybe not the first time, maybe not the second time, and I'm sure that maybe for everybody, it's different as far as how many times you need to experience it to get this thought. But eventually, you're going to think to yourself, what you're going to have to reassess the value of that achievement and how that has affected your overall life and your overall happiness. Because from one perspective, when you don't have it, you think that if you get that one thing, if I just get it, if I just get that thing, if I just get that $1 million, I'll be happy. But then you get that $1 million and you find that that $1 million didn't change how you feel about yourself. It didn't change your lack of confidence. It didn't change the traumas that you experienced from having a broken home. Or maybe when you get that $1 million after being financially disenfranchised, then what you find, like the person who comes from money, is that after you bought your clothes, you got complimented, maybe it boosted your romantic life, people chose you more, people admired you more, but all of your relationships that you formed were a result of your material acquisition. And as soon as those material items either became outdated or, were shown to the public, and people were there was an insatiable appetite to keep up with the so-called Joneses, or the relationships that you form with people were about them trying to find something to get from you because they were trying to climb the ladder, or they needed $20, or they needed $1,000, or they needed you to do something for them, but never really cared about you and how you feel, and how your relationship was with your father, how your relationship was with your mother, how your relationship was with your brothers or sisters, about how you used to get made fun of in school and you were never socially accepted. And you may get sad, you may get mad, it may go numb, but eventually you'll still find that that thing, at least in this case, which was money or the acquisition of material goods, or even acquiring a certain type of financial or social validation, was not what you thought it was, or it did not solve the problem the way it ought to be solved. It's like cutting weeds in a yard. If you don't pull it out at the root, the problem will come back. But if you don't know that, how can you fix it? If you don't know, if it's a metaphorical example and it's not about digging into the soil and pulling up the root, then how do you find the equivalent of the root of the problem if it's not actual like a plant? If the problem is maybe social validation, feeling like you belong, then dressing up in brand name clothes is like cutting the root, or excuse me, it's like cutting the weed down to the ground. So it looks like it's gone. So you look like you fit in, but then eventually the problem comes back. So the better way, or the better thought, is to really figure out why you're not socially accepted and who is not socially accepting you. What's the problem? Like, why do you feel bad? Do you need social validation because your mother never validated you? And like your mom was big into clothes and fashion, and so therefore, if when you saw your mom interact with somebody who was high fashion, you saw her validate those people, and you never quite got what you needed from her, whatever that might be. So when you see somebody get validated for their fashion, you think that that's the answer. You think, well, if I get that fashion, I'll get that validation, that respect from whoever. And to even know who you want the validation from is a whole nother level. What type of validation you need, that's a whole nother level of understanding that I think it's hard to find. You need to find that through counseling or time alone or both. But guess the idea is that the thing that you desire may not necessarily be the thing that you need. And at least in this case, or for an example, it may not be money. Like money, maybe it's purpose. Maybe you need something other than money and material goods to drive you. You need something other than that immediate pleasure of alcohol or some type of substance to give you a deeper sense of meaning, a deeper sense of fulfillment, because like you got that pleasure and it was cool for a while, but after it was over, you realized it didn't solve the problem. And so the only thing that really helps you feel any better is to find out deep inside of you what really matters to you and to do that thing. But the problem with that is of course if that thing don't pay, because it's a balance, gotta live. So if that thing don't pay, I guess I'm just not gonna do it because rent's due in 6 days. And every bill doesn't exactly fall on the same day. So every day of the month, you might have a new bill to pay, and all that volunteering for community service may not be. It may help you feel good in your soul. It may help you feel like a good person, and you're doing something that matters in the long run. But you got to get that money. But anyways, uh, that's that. So I'll see what comes next. Hopefully that made sense.